Hello friends, myself Jayanti. Today we are going to see about nickel-based superalloys. What is superalloys? Basically, these are the alloys which are mainly used above 0.7 of melting point in kelvins. Actually, these are 8A elements, namely iron, nickel-based and cobalt-based alloys. These are some of the superalloy components. You can see many turbine wheels, turbines, impellers, turbine blades, etc. Let us go for the application of superalloys. Normally, the superalloys are being used in aero engines or gas turbine engines where the high temperature has to be withstand. Okay, here you can see mainly it is used in aircraft, industrial gas turbines, rocket engines, space vehicles, submarines, etc. And the picture indicates the red color region where it is the hot end portion of the aero engine where majority of the superalloys are being used. Okay, what is the basic criteria for high temperature materials? Yes, the name itself implies a high temperature. It should have a high melting point, and at that high temperature it should have a structural stability, and it should be over for a long period because these engines are going to be used in for so many years. So the structural stability is an important criteria, and that during service temperature its mechanical properties has to be retained. So there should not be any degradation of the mechanical properties at the service temperature, and most important, it should withstand the oxidation and corrosion, because as the temperature increases, the oxidation also increases in many of the materials, and the corrosion also, it is prone to corrosion. Hence the superalloys or the materials has to withstand the corrosion and oxidation. And finally, what is the material we are going to use? It should be easily shaped or fabricated or manufactured to the desired shape. So manufacturability is also one of the criteria. And coming to the broad classification of superalloys, there are basically three types of superalloys based on the chemical composition. One is iron base, next cobalt base, and nickel base. Today in this lecture we are going to see only about the nickel base superalloys. And based on the processing method, there are two types. One is wrought alloy and cast alloys. Coming to the nickel based superalloys, here nickel acts as a major constituent, or it is a solvent, and it has a solid solution elements and also some carbide forming elements. Okay, and it coming to the next one, chromium, cobalt, iron, moly, tungsten, and tantalum, they are the major alloying elements, and they are strengthened by solid solution and second phase intermetallic precipitation. Okay, the intermetallic forming elements are aluminum, titanium, niobium, and sometimes it forms carbides, chromium carbide, or Na3Al. All these are Na3Al is the precipitate, and there are large number of alloying elements are added to derive the best combination of mechanical properties at high elevated temperature. Actually, normally these superalloys are formulated by adding together many elements based upon the requirement, service requirement. Okay, so that's why we can see many alloying elements are added to these superalloys to cater to the requirement of the application. And what this nickel based superalloys contain in the microstructure? Okay, first is a nickel matrix, which is called as a gamma phase. This gamma phase is basically an FCC structure, and this FCC structure can be retained up to the melting point. And next one is a gamma prime phase. So this is the precipitate. Okay, and this precipitate volume fraction can be up to 60%. This increases the strength of the superalloy, and it has the crystal structure of Na3M. Okay, third comes the gamma double prime phase. So this is also a precipitate. It is example Na3NB. It is a BCT body centered tetragonal structure, and it provides strength at low and intermediate temperature, and it is unstable above 650 degrees centigrade. Okay, but the gamma prime, it is stable up to high temperature. Okay, some of other phases which are present in nickel alloys are carbides, Example M23C6 and M6 MC carbides and borides. They are formed at the grain boundaries and they increase the strength at the high temperature. And topologically close packed phases, some undesirable phases like sigma phase, mu phase, Lavis phases, and Na3Mb phase, it is transformed from gamma double prime phase. This is the table which shows what are the alloying elements being used in superalloys and where all they present. Example, if you take matrix, nickel, cobalt, iron, chromium, moly, these forms the matrix. Normally these elements forms a solid solution. Okay, and if you see neo Cb, tantalum, titanium and aluminum, this forms precipitates. Okay, and carbides also is there, and some of the chemical composition of the alloys are given. Okay, and why nickel based superalloys being used widely? Because this nickel based superalloys exist in FCC structure right from the room temperature to the melting point. Hence there is no phase change. So normally the phase change will lead to a volume change or so many transformations, and the physical structure of the component, it will get changed during the phase change. So, but that kind of problem is not existing in the nickel based superalloys because FCC structure is prevalent from the room temperature till the melting point. And this FCC structure has a very good toughness. It is ductile, and normally FCC structure has a very high creep resistance compared to the other two BCC or HCP. It's actually because of its close packed structure. And this nickel has a very high tolerance for the alloying additions, and it retains the phase stability. And coming to the development of various nickel based superalloys over the years, and how this shows how the different phases are being utilized for the newer kinds of alloys. And you can see on the top, those are the strengthening phases which helps in improving the strength of superalloy. In the bottom you can see which are the deleterious phases. Normally this sigma, mu, Lavis, sulfate, all these phases are to the possible extent has to be reduced in the superalloy to get the good strength or the good properties. And again you can see on the top strengthening phases, you can see equiax structure of the precipitate and M23C6 which forms in the grain boundary, which pins the dislocation views and etc. Okay, coming to this slide, it shows what are the functions of each chemical elements being used in the superalloys. Example, nickel, it is a FCC matrix and forms the gamma prime also. And cobalt, iron, they increase the strength by solid solutioning. Okay, and coming to the zirconium, you can see it forms carbides, neodymium forms carbides. Okay, and coming to the carbide precipitation, as we already seen, there are so many carbide forming elements are present, and these carbides also the carbide precipitation will help in the higher creep resistance of this superalloy. Okay, this carbide precipitation will increase the strength from the room temperature. Okay, onwards, but the effect is only retained up to some temperature. Okay, so you can see that the strongest carbide formers are hafnium, zirconium compared to the vanadium, molybdenum and tungsten. And some of the MC carbides are formed during the melt, and it will get decomposed between some temperature like 750 to 1000, and it forms M23C6 carbides and the gamma prime. And some of the carbides, they dissolve also, and again it decompose. Okay, and coming to the major phases in superalloy, you can see already I told gamma is a FCC structure. So in this FCC structure, the alloying elements like cobalt, chrome, moly, they replace the regular lattice atoms of nickel. Okay, by this it gives the solid solution strengthening. And comes the gamma prime. It is a Na3X precipitate. It also has the same FCC structure, and it is a someway ordered crystal. So nickel example, you can see nickel ions are in the face centered location, and the aluminum are on the corners. Okay, then gamma double prime is a BCT structure. You can see the position of nickel and niobium atoms. Coming to the microstructure of this one, you can see the big square lump particles are basically the precipitates, and also the small particles, that is also precipitates. And in the grain boundary you can see there also carbide precipitates are there. Okay, actually this structure of mixed size of the precipitates are formed due to the heat treatment given to the nickel based superalloys. Okay, and coming to the strengthening mechanism, as we already seen, this is just a brief one. Because of solid solution strengthening, because of titanium, chrome, moly, tungsten, and the addition of elements like cobalt, which will decrease solubility of others to promote the precipitation of intermaterials. So we are getting the strengthening because of precipitation hardening carbides on grain boundaries. Actually this pins the pin the dislocation and control the grain boundary sliding. And small addition of boron and zirconium segregate to the grain boundaries, and this also retards the grain boundary diffusion process. And large grains, and in this superalloys, the development of superalloys started from equiax directly solidified and to the single crystal. Okay, this as we know the creep, it is very creep resistance increases as the grain size increases. Okay, in that order only the superalloy development also happen. Okay, so now we can see what are strengthening mechanism we are shown in the last slide. It is briefly shown with the microstructure. Coming to heat treatment, normally heat treatment is given after the forming and before employing in service. Okay, it has a 2-stage heat treatment, and that is one is solution treatment. This dissolves all the gamma prime and some of the carbons into solution. Then it is given a double aging treatment. So one is intermediate aging treatment, it to precipitate the carbide in optimum distribution. Okay, and final aging treatment to precipitate the gamma prime as fine homogeneous precipitate. Because of this 2-step aging treatment, we could able to get the microstructure what I have shown in the earlier slide, that is large particles and also fine particles precipitated uniformly inside the grains. Okay, the major purpose of heat treatment is to provide a precipitation hardening to achieve the desired precipitation of carbides, to relieve the embrittling effects of mechanical working process in wrought alloys through recrystallization and grain growth. Because during the hot working there are a lot of deformation will happen, and this deformation will lead to non-homogeneous structure in the worked part. So, and also because some of the stresses also will get developed inside because of the difference in temperature during forging or during heat treatment. So in order to remove all those things, deleterious effect, heat treatment will help us. Okay, then to optimize the grain size through the grain growth also. So basically this heat treatment gives an optimal properties which we require for the particular component during service. Okay, and we know why the large grain size is required. Basically it improves the creep strength, reduce the creep extent to failure, and reduce short-term strength and failure strength. Okay, how we achieve this large grain size? It's basically through directional solidification or to single crystal. Okay, that's why the alloying elements composition has been keep on changing and the single crystal has come into place. And now coming to the cast alloys, you can see to enhance high temperature performance, extensive addition of refractory materials is carried out, because we are adding many refractory elements and high melting point elements. This will pose a problem during the manufacturing of wrought alloys. Okay, because high melting point alloys and very refractory alloys will cause a cracking during the forging, and these are not suitable material for hot working. Hence there is a need to go for a casting. Okay, coming to the cast superalloys, they are divided into three categories. One is conventionally cast superalloys, that is basically yields equiaxed microstructure, and next one is a directionally solidified superalloys, and finally is a single crystal superalloys. So in this picture you can see the difference between the three types of superalloys. Okay, you can see in the first it is equiax structure. In the second we can see columnar directional solidified, that is the grains are grown in one direction, and in the last one is a single crystal, yes, only one crystal. This is some of the pictures or the pictures of the NGVs or HPT which is being used in a Kaveri engine. And this is the evolution of superalloys over the years. You can see from 1940s onwards the use of superalloys has started, and over the years there is a gradual improvement, and you can see the initial stage only the wrought alloys has come. Then afterwards you can see Maram series, actually first wrought it came, then conventionally cast alloys has come, then it moved on to directionally solidified, and finally it has come to a single crystal. Okay, why the single crystal is being sought? This is basically because of single crystal the grain boundary sliding will not happen, and the creep resistance is more. Okay, so with this kind of development, the operating temperature are also has been increased in the aero engines. Okay, so thank you for watching. These are the references, you can go through for the detailed study. Thank you.